economic model. I believe you've heard of the Sino-Hydro deal. You've probably heard of Ijapa. You've heard of things like that. So you might have heard of other things even in other African countries. Now the question which I'm sure our speakers will help us understand is that fact sheet. Africa possesses almost or over 30% of the total mineral wealth in this world. Yet, Africa produces, or Africa has the poorest countries in the world. We would expect that, of course, if you have minerals, you'll be able to use them properly to your benefit so you can develop your country. But we are not seeing that. And so this comes as a very, very interesting model, because then what people do or what countries do is that they mortgage their resources in order to use inflows that they will make from these resources when they begin to make profits out of them to pay for the loans which they go for. Research has proven that some African countries have tried it. I think I'm beginning to talk too much. I might be going into the fact sheets of the speakers. So I'll end here. And then I'll introduce the speakers for tonight. We have two alumni as speakers. I thought you celebrate that. That's very important. We are not going for strangers here tonight. So we have to my left. Is it to the left first or to the right first? To the left, okay. We have to my left Dr. Sulley Ibrahim. Show some love. He is a not customer due diligence. It's a center for democratic development. Okay? And then to my let's see you, Dr. Sulley. Let's see you. And then Anita-Delight Danquah Esquire. She in Accra, Ghana. So economic model to mortgage mineral resources. For the sake of order, let me just read tonight's program so that everybody is on the same page. First, when we start, the debaters are going to have 15 minutes each, okay, to speak to the issue. So they are going to counter the points that have been made by each other. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to do that. So Sulley will face off against Anita. They will ask themselves questions based on the submissions they have made, and then they are going to answer. Now, and it's the most beautiful part of it, where you and I are also going to ask our questions. I thought you celebrate and be excited about that. So what it means is that you and I are the judges. So let's listen with rapt attention and let's have a. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe in wasting time at all. We are 5 minutes into my time, 6:05. And so without wasting any much time, usually I've been to debates where I've moderated, and then the contestants have insisted you have to toss a coin. Because it doesn't matter, four will not always speak first. But with your consensus, I think we can let four, the motion, speak first. Is that fine with everybody? So that we follow a certain chronological order. So let's hear the argument against the motion, and then we'll pick it from there. Okay, so profile reading on Dr. Sulley, with your kind permission. And whilst I do that, Dr. Sulley can get ready to test a social and a civic society advocate with specialization in peace, conflict, security, and development research. Sulley of the Abuja-based Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, West Africa. But he Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism as the head of programs and later acting executive director. He KU 11, Belgium, and Bradford, UK, a B University of Ghana. Okay. His academic politics and conflict economics, security sector governance, and natural resource governance, conflict and cooperation. Sulley is currently analyzing Ghana-China relations in and Ghana resilience to resource scarce, focusing on the oil and gas industry. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we, with a round of applause, welcome Dr. Sulley. So Dr. Sulley is actually speaking again. All right. So Against has taken his place first, and then now we'll have the profile for Anita. Anita speaks for the motion. Anita-Delight Danquah is a lawyer, a marketer, a communications expert with a certificate in project management, a legislative draftswoman who has worked on numerous legal documents on both national and international levels. Anita is aware of issues affecting the marginalized. This passion has made her work and still works on pro bono basis as a lawyer, facilitator, trainer, consultant, and or company secretary for numerous non-profits, marginalized and religious institutions, including WILDF Ghana, WAPCAS Ghana, UNFPA, GENSED, ADRA Ghana, the Financial Awareness Foundation, and the ICI. Anita is presently a senior auditor with a prominent institution in Ghana and the project/event manager and consultant for Delight Multimedia and Events Consult, a company involved in event management, public relations, and advertisement, which she co-founded in 2010. Anita-Delight holds a practicing law certificate from the Ghana School of Law, a master's degree in communication studies from the University of Ghana, a first degree in political science from the University of Ghana, a second degree in law from the University of London, and a certificate in television and radio broadcasting from the GBC Training School. Anita is a member of a number of professional bodies, including the Ghana Bar Association and the Institute of African Women in Law, CIHRM, CIARP, Expertin, and IPR, also Expertin. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we once again, with a round of applause.
Hello, good evening. Whilst I was going through my resume, I think one thing came out, right, that I am not an expert on this topic. But what I am is a passionate Ghanaian. Amen. So all things being equal, we are going to discuss this dispassionately. And I also do know that the first thought that comes to mind when you hear mortgaging and mineral resources, is it a sustainable economic model? The first thought is, no, it's not. Right? No, of course not. How can it be? For aside a bid, let's have the discussion. And I know that by the time we are done, you might agree with me more that there is a possibility that it is a sustainable economic model. So let's go through the basics, right? Mortgage, what is it? So let's look at mortgage as a collateral. For example, you want a loan. You go to the bank. The bank gives you money. The bank wants to be sure that you can pay the money back. So what does the bank do? The bank says, oh no, try and bring me the documents to your house. So that if you should default in paying, I'll take over your house. So if you are able to pay, the house is still yours. And all things being equal, your name is still on that document. It's the papers that are going to them. So the minute you default in paying, they come over and take over your property. So when you take the loan, the property is not for the bank. The property is still yours until you default paying. Mineral resources, section 111 of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006 defines it. But let's just make it simple, right? Minerals, your gold, your diamonds, your bauxite, right? If you are very current, you do know that you're already having an issue with our bauxite and the Chinese. We'll go into details about that. What does mortgaging mineral resource mean? It is where a loan is provided to a government or a state-owned company and a natural resource asset serve as a collateral. So I'm done with all the basics. Now let's come to my motion. I am for the motion. It is sustainable. Why do I say this? Let me give this caveat first. No loan, all things being equal, can help develop a country and help it develop forever. Never, not possible. So the question then is, what do you do to ensure that should you take this loan, it will help you sustain yourself forever? So if you go for the loan from the bank, right, and the bank, you go for the loan and you go and chop trophy with the money, right, and the bank is coming back for the money, there's no money. The money is already in your stomach, possibly somewhere else, if not in your stomach. So you're not going, you can't pay. So if you can't pay, they come for the property. So all things being equal, should you put the structures aright, you should be able to pay back. So why do I think it's sustainable? Let's look at this. What do you use the loans for? Let's be practical. Let's come to Ghana. Most of these loans are not, they are loans that are big. All things being equal, we are looking at infrastructures. Monies that you can build with it and you get income from it, it will help you pay back your loans. So we have a lot of countries like the Kenyans and the Zimbabweans, they are doing the housing projects and they are doing the dams, and Ghana we have the Bui Dam and all those monies. So you look at the sparks and you realize that no, with the little people are doing with these monies, should it continue well, it is possible. But if you don't use it well, obviously, you can't do much with it. The second is the agreements governing the loans. You are going for a loan, and if I'm going for a loan from a bank, most often I know you go as if the bank is doing you a favor. It's a give and take. The bank needs me to come for the loan so that they can get their interest, so that they continue with their business. I also need the loan to continue with my business. So it's a give and take. But if you go in for a loan, and it's as if you are going to beg for a loan, you are not already an underdog. So when the person gives you some terms, no, you can't do this. No, use it for this. No, my people have to come in and contract the roads because you don't have experts. You don't have much to say because you went a begging. You didn't go and negotiate. You went to beg. Let's look at the people who drafted. Sometimes, so when I was doing this research, I looked at one of the agreements online. And I'm not expecting that. But when I started reading it, I'm like, genuinely, if it's a loan for myself, I'll not even go for such a loan. Because the terms are so rigid. Should you be unable to pay, I'll come and take over your this, your that. And the question then is, what is the fallback? Let me give this funny example. I was reading this article and it was saying that all things being equal, if you are owing, let's use China, right? Because right now when it comes to these kind of resource-backed loans, China is at the top. Most countries are not interested. China is at the top. So let's say, for example, the bauxite issue. And today we say we can't pay. And China says, okay, I'm going to take over your bauxite. Do you really believe China can enter into Ghana without our permission? Go to our bauxite village down there and go and man bauxite. Renegotiation clause. That should I be unable to pay and I don't agree that you should come into my country, all things being equal, you can't come into my country. So I should be able to go back to the negotiating table. And most of these countries, they know that they can't come without your permission. So they're ready to come back to the negotiation table. But when you look at these agreements, there's nothing like that. Who is calling the shots? If you are very conversant with happenings in Ghana, one big man was, within the week, begging one of the Chinese companies to go back and go and finish with the roads. And the first question that came to mind, why are we begging? It's a loan, yes. But it's an agreement. And you're supposed to do it within a certain time. So if you're not able to do it within a certain time, it means you breached the agreement. So it means you default. All things being equal, why are we begging? How transparent is this agreement? How transparent is it? All you hear is, we've gotten a loan. We are going to build N1, N2, N3. Who are the parties involved? What is the loan amount? What type of loan is it? What type of collateral do we have? What is the range of interest? Nothing. We don't know anything. We only get to know these details when we are unable to pay. So the question then is, we seem not to have a choice because this kind of loan seems to be the kind that can help with the real infrastructure we need. This kind of loan, all things being equal, most countries will not give it to you for you to pay back. Because they realize that now when we give, especially the second world third, if we give you the money, you not pay back. So you want something substantial in return. And so if you really want to build those big dams, those long roads, those N1s and the N25s, you need the money. Where do you get the money? You go to them for the money. But how do you go to them for the money? What are the terms? Who are the people involved? What are the contractual agreements? What is the fallback should there be the need? So if you listen carefully, you realize that should we put all the structures in place, it is sustainable. But what is happening? Someone will say, our leaders don't love us, our leaders always corruption. That's true. But then my question to you is, what do you ask from your leaders? Do you ask for accountability? Because maybe we should first and foremost ask for accountability. Ensure that our leaders go by the right channels. Ensure that they have our best interest at heart. They go for the right loans. They are ready to pay for those loans with structures that can pay back. So when what is said and done, we have the money, we have the structures, we've paid back. So if you've paid back, the structures is yours, the gold is yours, what can we do? Heaven is the limit. Thank you.
We can keep that mic. So I think that we've had a very, very good time with Anita. Without wasting any much time, we'll move on to the motion against, which will be done by Dr. Sulley. Let's appreciate Dr. Sulley.
Yeah, hello. Yes, just one quick correction. Yes, I'm a fellow of CDD West Africa, but the views that I'm going to present here do not necessarily represent the institution. They are purely my own research, independent way. So when I got the motion, what came into my mind, three things. It's a question of sustainability, natural resource, and mortgaging. So you look at mortgage, you ask yourself, yes, it's a loan, it's a financial vehicle that you can use for your development or whatever. But the question you ask yourself, is any car capable of carrying anything? You have a Tico, and you want to carry timber logs with it. In international development, we have a lot of loan arrangement that you can tap into for your development. Mortgage is one of them. You decide to go for mortgage. It has its own conditions and rules. And now you come and complain about the challenges that it poses to your development. So is it your choice or the choice of the one that you want for the loan that is causing the problem? So it's not all cars that can carry anything. It's a vehicle for development, but it's not a vehicle for natural resource governance. You look at your natural resource governance. Natural resources are special economic resources. They are not produced. We extract them from their natural setting. They deplete, meaning they are exhaustive. So if you go for loan, use them as a backup, and tomorrow you wake up and there is nothing to extract from the natural resource, who bears the cost? It's the future generation, and that's a debt. So more like going for using mortgaging as an instrument of managing natural resource wealth, it's more like selling the birthright of your own children. So the generation unborn will sell their birthright, and then we enjoy it today. Meanwhile, they pay the cost tomorrow. That's a problem. So you look at sustainability, the core of sustainability is intergenerational equity. Enjoyment of the natural resources today should not compromise the enjoyment of future generations the same wealth. As long as they are going to be born as Ghanaians, they are entitled to whatever wealth is kept in the underbelly of the earth, as long as Ghana sits on that earth. So it's a commodity that everybody is entitled to enjoy as long as the person is a Ghanaian. So if you use a particular vehicle to exploit it or distribute it, and is satisfied to this generation needs, ignore the future. Meanwhile, the future that the people who are going to pay for the loan, certainly cannot classify that one as sustainable model. So that's my first point I just want to clarify for my co-debater. But then you move on to ask another question, and you say, okay, yes, it's a financial tool. Have you ever seen a successful case of mortgage financing around the world? Or even in Ghana? We have 2 cases, but even that, we have a lot of issues with them. We have the Blue Dam, we use the cocoa seeds to back up, but even that was a part, and it was a bilateral loan between 2 governments. Bilateral loans are not like mortgages. Mortgages, you have 3 actors at least involved. You have the one having the loan, maybe the bank, the one who is in need of the loan, and the one who is going to guarantee for it. Or for example, if you are using in the private domain, you have, okay, I want to buy a car, I don't have the money, the bank is willing to coming, and then the car owner sells to me. So I'm going to deal with 3 people, all of them on commercial basis. It's not a concessional basis. So the commercial interest of the one giving the loan, the commercial interest of the car, and my interest. I have to meet those 2 people interests. If I were to deal with, if I have my own money and I'm dealing with the car owner directly, I will not go through the risk associated with the bank giving the loan. So mortgage from the private sector, we just want to extrapolate it and transport it into the public sector. Whatever decision the person takes in his private life, they not question it. But if you take that decision in the light of the public, you have every right to question that, because it's going to affect the lives of not just you and maybe your immediate family, but the entirety of the country, today, tomorrow, and generation to come. So yes, it's a vehicle, but we cannot just carry it from the private onto the public and expect it to be successful for everybody, as long as we are dealing with natural resources. A natural resource that is depletable, exhaustive, and we can wake up today and we have nothing to dig from the ground. Meanwhile, we have to pay the loan tomorrow or tomorrow next. That's a problem that we need to look at. And lack of successful cases, it tells us that countries around the world, today you can only, most of them you can see China is a country that's willing to do that kind of engagement. I'm yet to see any country either from the West or the US or whatever that have that arrangement with African countries. Most of the cases that you come across is China. And the one I talk about, the cocoa beans, that one required that to sell solely to China, and then proceeds kept in Chinese bank until such a time they were able to pay the loan. That was part of the bill power that we did. The second one is the 2010 $3 billion loan that we want from China, oil for infrastructure. The egregious nature of the terms was such a way that we could not meet all of them. Eventually, we could only do the Trouble gas plant and then Eastern Corridor, some parts of the Eastern Corridor route. The third one is bauxite for infrastructure deal that we did sign in 2018 or 2019, and she alluded to it with the Etua Forest. If it goes on well, and the research that we are doing to find out how it is likely to sustain and be effective, and a lot of issues coming up from there, because China is going to construct government choice projects, and that's even a problem of itself, because we know in Ghana, a government comes up with its own projects today, in its office, another one comes and abandons those projects. So at the government level, we don't even know how those projects that call for this loan are going to be sustained in another government term. And then we come to the agreement that allowed China to mine in a Tiwa forest for 15 good years. So we ask ourselves, if at the end of the 15 years, would there be a Tiwa forest? Would there be the raw species and plant and animal species in the forest? So what are we doing to the future? And who are going to pay the price for the loan and at the same time the degradation of the forest? So those are problems. So mortgaging is not the deal. No one is saying it's not a financial tool, but where you apply it, you can't use it at the conceptual level to say, okay, this is sustainable model. And it may be successful in the private sector. Even that one, there are questions. The 2007-2008 global financial crisis, mortgage played a significant role there. Thank you. And ever since that 2007-2008, even the developed countries are cautious in dealing with mortgaging in the private sphere. How much more we want to take it to the public sector? And there are no successful cases onto that. Meanwhile, there are successful cases in which all the resources have been managed around the world. That week, or mineral resources, let's say you're talking about gold, you're talking about diamond, you're talking about manganese or bauxite, the 4 major mineral resources we have in the country, at least according to the Ministry of Finance 2019 Mining Sector Report. we have other ways of managing this resource. We have the sovereign wealth fund, where you keep part of the revenues that are coming from your mineral resource wealth in a savings account somewhere. And the World Bank tells us in 2016 about the wealth of nations that if you save, if countries were to save in the year 1970, by the year 2000, they will have made a law that they will not need to depend on their oil resources or revenues from their oil to develop. So why can't we make a conscious effort? So, okay, we are going to invest these parts of money, and then we will take a percentage of that in a 30 years time for so and so development. So saving and investing. It's not about saving for saving's sake. You save with the intention to invest, to use it for something. The successful cases around the way, if you read all literature about natural resource, we have the clear one is local content policies, the sovereign wealth, and many other arrangements, corporate social responsibilities. Companies come to the community to mine, and they take all the wealth and they leave us with the desert or degraded land. We have nothing to tell them. And then we tell them, okay, land reclamation, you dig the land, so go back and reclaim the land for us. Which commercial actor would do that?
Beautiful submission. You're welcome, Dee. Thank you, sir. All right, so now it's time for rebuttal. Okay, so against the motion, we'll rebut. For the motion, we'll do likewise. For this one, I'll give you guys the opportunity. Who wants to start?
I don't mind you starting.
So you started. Okay. All right, so over to you.
Anyway, it's fine with me. Okay. All right. Dog. Okay, so a few issues. Yes. Dog is coming from the angle saying that loans are bad. Loans are the devil's instrument to destroy the world. It's not true. If you're a good business person, you know that loan isn't bad. Actually, loan can practically help you start a business. And I went on about what you use the loans for. Dog is talking about saving in the next 30 years. So the N1 road should wait for next 30 years. The N2 road should wait the next 30 years. The road in front of your house should wait for another 30 years. The issue is development. Every country goes for a loan. If you want to develop, the issue isn't about the loan per se. The issue is, who do you go to for the loan? What do you use the loans for? Will the loan be able to give you the needed income to pay off your debt? Doug was talking about China being the only. No. China is the main, yes. Most countries are not interested in this kind of resource-backed loans. But we have commodity trading companies in the world, and they're also very interested in it. A friend of mine, when I was discussing this topic with him, he said, you have to read Negotiating with the Chinese. So I just picked the book, I started reading it, and I was wowed away. If you don't know the person you are dealing with, if you don't know the strategies of the person, you're waiting for a loan from someone, you don't know how the person acts, what the person's strategy is, how the person operates. How then do you go for such a loan? Doug was talking about examples in the world. Trust me, I can give you so many examples. But since I don't have much time, let me just give you some few ones. Okay. So, DR Congo, they have the Second Agreement. They have 25 projects from it. Roads, railway, health-related. We have the Bui Dam, Ghana, 12 plant, bauxite. The bauxite is, we already having issues with bauxite. Angola, we have their housing projects, the refineries. Zimbabwe, we have the rural electrification program. Ecuador, we have the hydroelectric dams and the thermoelectric plants. South Sudan, they have one of the good roads, and they are into road projects. The issue isn't about loans. And frankly speaking, I think I agree with Doug in a way. How Ghana is going in respect to its resources, how Ghana is going about in respect to getting the money, the loans, where they get it from, the agreement, obviously it's going to be depleted. Obviously, by the end of time, when our children come, there will be nothing left. That is not where my argument is. My argument is, let's do things right. Let's put the right structures in place. And you not just get infrastructures that will bring income for you to pay off your debt. You'll be able to get your mineral resource intact at a time you want to mine it, and when you are ready to mine it. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. So Doc will also have 5 minutes to do same to Anita.
Thank you, Anita. And you said my problem is loans, and I get a little bit because as if you are missing the topic of the day. We are talking about mortgage loan, not all loans. And that is why I said example that, okay, you have a TICO, can you use to carry timber logs? But at a car that can carry timber logs. So it's one of the loan facilities that you can take. So if you decide to go use TICO to carry timber logs, you don't complain about the problems. So it's not all loans. We have concessional loans. We have other bilateral loans. We have loans you can take with other multilateral, let's say with IMF or World Bank or whatever. And we have countries that are not having natural resources are developing with loans too. Why should we make our natural resources as the only way we can use to raise loans for our development? And instead of using the way that it will benefit to this generation without compromising the enjoyment of the same wealth by future generation. So that's one issue that I think you need, I need to clarify. And the other one, you talk about cases, and you mentioned countries that, I don't know whether we can celebrate them as having been successful in terms of development. You could have mentioned maybe other Gulf states. I'm not sure how many people will take their holiday to Congo. That's a problem. So that's an issue, because you know, if you look for successful cases, then maybe you look for Gulf states. They have been successful in managing their natural resources in a certain way. And you ask them what have been the formula. Saving and investing, parking some of their resources to take care of certain volatilities in their economy, and then investing as they produce the resources along the line. It's prudent management of the resources. It's not about taking loans and using the resources back, and if we default, and then whatever happens to the resource is none of our business. Meanwhile, the future generation will pay for it. So it's mortgaging does not promote intergenerational equity in enjoyment of our natural resource wealth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doc. So at this point, we'll now have interrogations. So now, specifically, you can ask questions, probing questions to each other, and then you respond. I'll start this time around with you, Doc. So 10 minutes to do that, and then Anita will also have 10 minutes.
Thank you. Anita, I would like to ask my question, and if you avail yourself with development, international development literature, And there are instances that people describe this kind of approaches in terms of Africa lacking agency of its own, and it has to depend on the agencies of those having money and other power to develop their resources. How will you respond to people who make those kind of claims? That depending on mortgaging, using our resource to back up all those loans implies we don't have an agency of our own, and we have to depend on those with the money and the power to do that. So that's my first question.
Okay, sure.
I should.
No, so I answer it. Okay. You see, when you are poor, when you don't have, and you want to show off that you do have, you have a problem. And that is where we are getting to now. So all things being equal, we have a lot of natural resources. And they are good, right? I'm not here to defend anyone on this, but you have natural resources. What is the worth of natural resources in the ground? It's very, very important. 1. 2, all things being equal, I get the impression that if there is a natural resource, and your idea is to build infrastructures, the question I'm asking is, you go for loans. There are types of loans, as you said. So you go to these countries for loans, and now most of these countries are not ready to give you loans, as we stand here. Those who are ready to give you loans are not ready to give you the kinds of loans you can use for such infrastructures. 2, and when they give you loans for that can make such infrastructures, they are trying to tell you what to use it for, and all things being equal, it is not such infrastructures that can bring in money. So the question is, do you throw your hands in the air? What do you do? When you talk of loans, I looked at a lot of the loans, and you look at all the loans, and the money involved cannot even do 1-on-1. So, don't get me wrong. Yes, we are mortgaging. But as I said from the beginning, when you mortgage, it is still yours. The problem comes up when you are not able to pay. So in the system we are in, we are not able to pay. So we are in debt, and our children should not be in debt, and those debts will occur. However, should we go by the standards, the international standards, and believe you me, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, in New York, and the World Bank said something. They argue that resource-backed loans, especially mortgages, can be an important tool for development, precisely because they are directed towards infrastructure development, and most of these monies, most countries are not willing to give. And that is David Heller et al. In their article, Resource-Backed Loans, Pitfalls and Potentials. We are not saying there are no pitfalls. There are many of them. And we are talking about Congo, who wants to go to Angola? Obviously, no one wants to go to Angola. But if they have one, why wouldn't they want to go to Angola? Not because of their roots, obviously because of something else. Now, people want to go to Rwanda, and why? Someone will tell you it's their charismatic leader. It's not just the charismatic leader. You see, all I'm saying is, you have a resource. If you don't know how to mortgage it well, get experts if need be, because others are doing it, and they are working at it.
And I don't know the time. Do you still have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And the other question I would like to maybe you could address to us, and because when we talk about natural resources, the core of the argument is it's a resource for today's generation, a resource for tomorrow's generation. So if we mortgage it and use it for infrastructure today, and the future generation that pays for the debt, are we trapping them in debt? And is that too can be considered as sustainable development?
Okay. So the problem arises when you are not able to pay your debt. You see, and that is where I'm going with this argument. I'm not saying that if you mortgage, it's gold, it's that's what I'm saying. All things being equal, I would love for our natural resources to be in the ground until we get money and our own experts to go and refine them and we get the perfect product and export. Because when you do that, you get more money. When you have the refined end product, you get more money. But as we are at this moment, the question is, what do we do? No one is ready to give you money for infrastructure. A country is ready to give you money for infrastructure, but the country doesn't believe that you can pay and doesn't trust that you will pay because you are owing. I'm not even going to go there. So all things being equal, what do you have? When you are playing cards, we have the poker face. Sometimes you don't have any. The cards you are holding. Please, those who know how to play cards, when you are holding, you are not holding that much in your hands. But the question is, what is your face saying? So if your terms are good and you go and negotiate well, all I'm saying, dog, is build infrastructures that will bring income so that our children will come and see infrastructures and we'll also see the natural resource. So that by the time they come in, we've already paid our debt, the natural resource is bringing money, and now they have the resource to do the refinery, so that minerals will not just be in the ground. We'll be exporting this for a lot of money.
Okay, thank you. And then,
hey, go, where are you?
Just last one. And this one, I'm coming to you from studies in decolonization and colonization studies. And there are claims that that approach, by and large, it's a lazy man's approach to development. Just because you have the resources there, you say, no, what can I do? Instead of thinking around it and see what value can we add to it and use it for our development. So, no, I have it. It's worth about 10 billion, and someone is willing to give me the raw cash right now, so come and give me the money and let me develop. Because you take your mind out of the fact that, yes, I have it. Can I sit down and think about it? What can I do with this resource? And then I can generate more wealth than what I'm selling. Instead of just say, okay, I have it, so you take it and give me the money, and I go back and say, and just spend the money. How do you answer to that claim that it's a lazy man's approach to development?
Okay. Generally, I'll ask what is lazy, what is the approach. But I'll take it from the angle as if I know what you're talking about, that it is a lazy man's approach. I don't believe in waiting for desperate times to work. Please speaking, I'm not an expert in this field. I'm new in this field. But when I read about the other options, they are talking about, they give me lots of options, going for loans backed up, and and when they are all concluded, all they are saying is that most often than not, it's not much for infrastructure. So we are coming back there. They will talk at this loan, vehicle, then the moving loan. I know the economics here, they know all those big. Then when they finish the discussion, they come back and say, most often than not, these loans are not for then the infrastructure. If we want to do the small things, I'm all for it. But I believe that sometimes you take the risk. You take the risk and you put in place structures to mitigate the risk. Otherwise, you'll be like someone in the person is not doing any business. The person can go for a loan, is not interested in doing any business. The person is not working. The person is at home and still expects to be fed. Dog, how are you going to be fed? You have to put yourself out there. You have to be ready to do the work. And yes, it is risky. Sometimes when I heard about the bauxite, I trembled. Chinese again with bauxite. I think they are not doing it right. I think our leaders should be held accountable and to be made to do it well. But is it an issue? I don't think so. Is it sustainable? not in the long term, but when you get the resource coming in, you don't need them again. Thank you, Doc.
Okay. Thank you. So, Anita, over to you.
Doc. I know, right? my church. All right, so Doc, looking at, we are looking at real infrastructures, the main roads and the dams, and yeah, so the question is, what other options are there?
If you go to international development literature and look at the arrangement countries have, so it's not everything that is coming from your natural resource wealth that you spend today. You saving it with intention to invest. You pack some of them with intention to address certain problems that may arise in the process of absorbing the natural resources. And mind you, we are speaking in the context of sustainability. Once we are speaking in the context of sustainability, your approach should be in such a way that today you and I will enjoy the wealth, but it's not enjoyment at the expense of future generation. So if you are taking a loan in the name of the resources and the burden is shifted to the future generation, then you cannot classify that one as sustainable model for development. That's a problem. And then mortgaging as it applies in the private sector. No one, I may not be able to question why a father will build 5 mansions out of mortgages, only to die for the children to sell those 5 mansions to pay for the liabilities and then move to go and live in a shanty town somewhere. I'm not sure the extent to which those children will celebrate their father. Discover those resources. Were we developing infrastructure whilst we were not developing? We were developing infrastructures.
How?
We could not develop infrastructures. How many of them were backed by?
Nkrumah had a lot of gold.
Natural resources. We are still using the natural resources as the basis.
Oh, yes.
You have a classic case?
Yeah, I did political science actually. What I'm trying to say is Nkrumah had resources.
But you have a classic case where you use the resource, so okay, I'm going to use this resources, the natural resources that pull off the back.
It's
Yeah, you can come on, yes.
No, you go ahead.
You can come.
You go ahead.
I didn't come across any successful case from that extent.
No,
so if you have it, you can let me know.
Your question was, before we got the minerals,
yes.
What were we doing?
Yeah. Were we building infrastructures? We were not building infrastructures.
You are looking at these resources like now. You see, even the colonial days, the resources were there.
Yes.
And they were shipping it out.
Yeah.
So the resources had always been there.
Yeah.
And these resources have been the motorways and all these canneries we were built.
So we're using the natural resources for those infrastructure development?
Obviously.
As backed up loans?
Okay, so the question then, my next question then. We are
answered the case. If you can have a case on that.
Yes, it's a follow-up actually. So because we are looking at, let's say, the olden times, the minerals, what they were using it for, right? So that's the idea, that they were selling it as raw materials, and then there was more, right? So he was selling, he was doing change of government, coup d'etat, installment. The next, we are now in the 4th Republic, right? So now, where are the minerals? They are here. What do we use it for? Do we sell it again? Now, at first, most people are interested in your resources because at first they'll tell you Ghana gold number 1, the finest cocoa number 1. Now you're not number 1. Now we have people doing hybrids. Now there's more competition in the system.
Ghana is still leading. Ghana is number 1 since July 16, 2021. We got to South Africa.
I know of we being second. I don't know of being first.
We are the first on gold.
Okay, so now we have more options. So right now, we coming to you for your resources. We have options. So the question then is, people think, are we still going to use our natural resources and sell it without it being what? Refined. Raw materials. You don't have that. And that money, and the most important thing, that money that you get, is it able to get you the infrastructure that you need?
No, in terms of refining, at the moment, since 2012, we have our saying. So the resources are processed here. It's no longer that we carry the raw output outside, so we do it here.
Who is processing it?
We have assaying. Ghana have the policy of assaying. So yes. Assaying, we do it in Ghana.
Yes.
It's not like the previous, we just take the whole output outside and we don't know.
And so far, in respect to the resources, what have we been able to use it for?
You can.
You see, talk. The system we are handling now, I don't believe it is sustainable.
Okay.
We are looking at a system, all things being equal, if our leaders and political leaders and we take people up on, should we have all the basics I set in place? Look, it is a sustainable model. If not, go out in its raw state. How many of them are refined? And how much are you going to get? And what is the all things in the infrastructure you're going to get from it?
And have you asked the question why those who are giving the loans are so interested in using the natural resource as a backup for
Actually, I'm asking the questions, but I'll answer this one. I'll answer this one. Actually, when I was reading, I most of these third world countries and African countries, you can't hold them to their word when it comes to loans. So you give them loans to build infrastructure, to do the big things. It's now time to pay, and they'll tell you, it wasn't my government. It was the previous government. So they realized that. So we have a long way to go, dog. That I do agree. Let's have everything put in place, dog. And trust me, it's plausible. Yeah. It is plausible.
Okay. Any more questions from you? All right. So just to clarify, like they were saying, Ivory Coast is now the world leading producer of cocoa. Let's note that they produce over 2 million metric tons, and Ghana is doing about 800,000. Unfortunately, yes. Our neighbors have taken over from us, sadly. All right. So this is the part where it gets very interesting. I believe that we've heard a lot of things. I believe that you have your own ideologies, your own questions you want to ask. And so I'll open the floor now. If you have any question you want to ask. Sorry. So I think I'll say that all over again. We are going to now ask questions or make our submissions, okay? So if anybody has any question to ask, you raise your hand. And then, oh, there's a hand here already. I didn't even finish speaking. So there's a hand here. You mention your name, your institution, and then quickly ask your question.
Okay, my name is Regina.
Yes, and who the question is directed? Right?
Okay, my name is Regina Samwa from the business school. So I'm going to ask Doc a question. So the first one, lawyer asked, but he didn't answer. He said other countries take loans without using their natural resources as collateral. So what else do we have to use for collateral? And then the second one, he said we should focus on saving and investing. So the idea of going for loan wouldn't come in if we have the money for the for building the infrastructures. So if we have little money, why do we have to save that money and make this generation suffer? But because we think we want something for the future generation. So we use the money to help this, that we have to use to help this generation, save them, and then we make this generation suffer. Please dig in my question. Yes.
Over to you, Doc.
Thank you. We are talking in the context of sustainability, and then we always have to go back there as our basis of our footing. At the core of sustainability is that you should enjoy today, but don't compromise the enjoyment of future generation. So no one is saying that you should not benefit from the wealth today. You have your share, but leave the share of the future generation for them to also to enjoy. As long as they will be born as Ghanaians, they are entitled to it. That is at the core of sustainability. So if you use the resource as mortgage, and the Chinese are going to mine the Tiwa forest, 20 years, 30 years time, would those children born around those areas, would they find a Tiwa forest? Now, if you used to go to a Tiwa forest to cut sticks for pounding fufu or whatever, we don't have those sticks to cut fine. So that's a problem. And then the other one is, that's what I asked her, whether before we started this journey of resource-backed loans, we were building infrastructure or not. So what model were we using to build infrastructure? So that's it. So if we had...
So what's it?
Did we arrangements? In Congo, we're having a lot of assistance also from Chinese. That's what I'm saying. But they resources. So why are we moving away from those patterns to that everything now we have to use the resource as a collateral? So that's the issue.
My name is Philip Fofi Amwating. Small intervention, not necessarily a question to any of you.
Okay.
But I wanted to address the question he asked, that what other option is available. I'm still for the mortgaging, but not necessarily our resources. We should mortgage the subject matter. What do I mean by that? If I want to have a house and I go to bank, the house that I'm taking the money, there is more likelihood I will not use the money to build. And at the end of the day, my father's money will go away. I'll give you an example. Tanzania has built a railway line from Dar es Salaam to the coast. They did it with China. And the arrangement is that the proceeds from, revenue generated from the railway line, the bullet railway line, will be used to pay the loan. At the end of the day, what they realized that their feasibility study was wrong, and therefore the loan is not going to be repaid. What it means at this point is that there is going to be a cost to both parties, because the two of you didn't do the right thing. We are not going to get the money. So if it's going to take 200 years to get it, we are all in it together. If they had used their gold, the Chinese would have won. They would have gone, sold their gold, get their money and pack away, and Tanzania would be in deep shit. Excuse my word.
Point well made.
They and go and sell their gold.
So what you do is, what exactly? In fact, every loan has a cost. So in the first place, to say that you are mortgaging your mineral resources, what it means is that you're going to pay interest on that. Don't forget. But the reason you are doing that is that you believe you'll be able to use it efficiently and generate more benefits than if you were to do piecemeal way of harnessing the resources to do the development. So what has been happening as but how long is it going to take us for us to be able to build the N25 she's talking about? Hundreds of years, and we'll all be dead and will not enjoy that benefit. And whether we do piecemeal or we do mortgage, one day it's finite resource, it will finish. So that question is moot. We don't have to go there. The most important thing to think about is, would we be able to do it such that once we take the loan, let's say at Tiwa Forest, we take it, we say we are going to build a road from here to Danquah. We are unable to do. The Chinese will go in there, mine them, because there is a contract backing. You cannot opt out. Those of you who have done contract law, the state the state investor contract, you cannot in any way to say you will not obey it. You can repudiate it, but you have responsibility to, pacify them at the end of the day. So we cannot run away from that. We will all democracy and where we are with our kind of partisan politics. I will do this, but on the grounds of national development planning, where the two parties have sat and the chief are involved, and then they agree that we are doing this and this is the project. Irrespective of the party in power, that project will continue. In that sense, it makes sense. Otherwise, NPP will come to power, mortgage at the forest, use it to do something which they think is so nice, they leave. They go to whatever forest, they do the same. By the time we realize everything is gone, nothing has happened, and these guys are harnessing our resources. If our chiefs, if the national development planning, if the civil society have sat and agree that this is what we think is good for this nation in the next 50 years to come, and therefore we want to mortgage these resources to do that, fair, good enough, we all took that decision. It's not NPP, it's not NDC, it's nation as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just a brief to that, okay. And you talk about mortgage, and that's he rightly mentioned, because it's the item on which the loan is taken is the one that serves as the collateral. But we take the loan in the means of rules, but the rules are not the ones serving as the collateral. The resources are rather serving as the collateral. So we need to think about why the shift. Thank you for the question.
Okay, so let's take a question here.
Yeah.
Your name?
My name is Emmanuel Pukusakode. I work with the business school. Yeah, just to ask a further question. The last but one speaker, what he just said, his example was mainly based on the fact that the Ugandan thing was because there was a wrong feasibility study. But the question is, what if you are able to do the right feasibility study and then you top it up with some sensitivity analysis, which shows that there will be good returns? What happens? That's my question, please.
Very good question. So, you want to respond to that?
So that is what we call win-win situation. So if is happy, if it goes, but if they had mortgaged it on a different resources and the project goes bad, Ghana government cries, Chinese government is happy. That is the difference between the two.
So a follow-up question to this. Can anyone here, including the speakers, give us an example of one country, especially an African country, that mortgaged its mineral resources and we have a successful case to speak about? Just one, because I did a lot of reading.
For the motion.
Not necessarily. Right now we are discussing the merits. Right now we are not doing for and against. No. Now we are putting Ghana first. One thing, when I was reading, one thing I realized was that there seemed to be sparks. Sparks meaning that, okay, they were able to use it and we were able to build this road. We were able to do this. But as a country collectively, you realize that the country is not going really anywhere. So, and when I was reading further, I realized that, and what Sir was saying, change of government, national plan, the terms of the agreement. So all these things will come together to help. So if let's say, for example, I'm a political party and my political gain is to do free university, I want to give you free food, lunch, supper, I'll come to your house and give you food to eat. You see, if that's my idea, and all this, the question I ask myself is, what income would that generate for me to pay that loan? So if we don't have any of those things, and right now, as we said, I think we have a national plan. I remember about... Do we have a national plan? Actually, we do have all the political... I remember I was... That was about 6 years ago.
But the question is, if indeed we have a national plan, how come we are in 60s and 70s here?
It depends on the side that you stand in the political arena, then you say we have it. Because one a plan. Another party came and said it's not workable. So where is the plan?
Okay, so the question is, where our leaders, all the parties were involved. We had civil societies there. And I remember my boss was seated there and he would bring it or would be typing. They were all involved. So one party comes and says, I'm no more interested. And Ghanaians are okay, the person says they are not interested, so let's move on. I've built a hospital. Another party, I'm not interested in continuing. Okay, the person is not interested in continuing. Everyone has their own model. So at the end of the day, we come back to this thing. Even should we have a plan, what's the way forward? And so our political leaders, they are there. They'll get their money. They are doing NDC-NPP. They'll eat, they'll chop, they'll go. The question is, how are we holding them responsible? It's us. I think it comes back to us.
And in terms of a useful case of mortgaging the resource, if you read around the literature, it's not just Africa or around the whole world. It's how you come across a successful case or a concrete case to that effect. So that's a challenge for all of us.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so I'd like to ask a little bit about the theory that, Anita, you were building. Okay, so the premise is that we can do this one provided the conditions are okay in terms of if only you cannot pay, that is where the problem come in. And if everything is right. So these are the theory. So the question I'd like to ask is, so, in practice, all this theoretical argument you're suggesting, if only we cannot pay, if the policies are there, if we can get the background, things will work. Now, empirically, do you think that these things do exist, which will make this tenable? Because otherwise, then the question of feasibility is at stake. So I'd like you to really, really bring the theory in, because again, we're also doing what can be real. We're not here theorizing alone. Yeah? Can we connect what we're doing today to policy for it to happen? So all the suggestions, can you relate that to practice a little bit for us to see what this can be feasible?
Good one. We'll take a response, or you want me to go and come? Okay.
Doug, it's very, very feasible. But the question is, will it be politically expedient? That's another discussion altogether. If you look at, generally, when I was reading and my case studies, you realize that what are you using the loans for? The use of the loans, one. Two, they'll talk about efficiency, poor spending, corruption. Can we eradicate that? If we can, it means that you efficiently use the resources that come in. Expect the drafts, agreements, and the terms are tight. So if I'm coming for a loan, you're not doing me a favor. It's a do-do. You win, I win. It's a win-win situation. It should be a win-win situation. So the terms, the experts must be tight on it. Then who is calling the shots? Then we have competitive tender process. And that's one thing I also came across, that we will be there and they'll say, we've contracted it to the Chinese. And we're all like, oh, okay, the Chinese. The question is, what tender process did it go through? What tender process? Someone sitting somewhere will liaise with someone and they are doing their own thing with our resources. Then you come about transparency of the agreement. How transparent is the agreement? Most of these, when I say this, most people say that US and they also went through we are just 60 years, they are over 300, they went through what we've gone through, and so we also get my thinking is that if someone had passed this way, the person has fallen, and the person has gotten here, why should you go there? You've already learned from the person's mistakes, so there's no need to go through that same model. So, Prof, if you're asking, is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Is it plausible? Yes, it is. Is it politically expedient, and would it indeed be done? Prof, that's another discussion altogether. But it comes again, I believe that if you take MPP, NDC, the leaders out, we are always in the majority. The people are in the majority. And I'm not even going to go to the uprising, and no, I'm not going to do. But I'm saying that should the people want it to happen, it will happen. What, don't you want it to happen? And you know what? Someone will say, someone did this.
So from what we are saying, yes, done. And then it will take an all-inclusive effort and decision. Because it looks like we are allowing the political parties to dictate things to us. Please, a question.
Okay, my name is Yahusu Brefu. My question goes to Doc. I want to go back to the definition on the sustainability, where we have to enjoy the resources without compromising future generations' ability to enjoy same. Anita makes the point that we need to mortgage the resources, but it depends on what we use it for. Let's take, for instance, in Commerce, Akosombo Dam was done by a similar arrangement where we have some gold in maybe Akusi. And he used all the gold resources in Akusi to do the Akosombo Dam. Generations after Nkoma's death are still benefiting from Akosombo Dam. And until hydroelectric dam becomes something we can use again, we will depend on Akosombo. Would that project still pass the test of sustainability or not? That's my question.
You want to add something?
Yes, it will pass for sustainability because current generation are enjoying from the electric power from the dam. But the question is that dam what today's generation will want if they were to take the decision? Because you enjoy yourself, you save some for them, they will decide what they will want to do with it. But you have decided based on your taste at the time, and because they're enjoying it today, then say, okay, then it was all right that we did it for them. It's your judgment, it's not their judgment. So the judgment is for the future generation also determine what they will use the resource for or the wealth for. It's not you determining for them and say because it suits them, then that is a pass for it. So I think that's where we also debate.
Yes, there's a follow-up.
So, Doug, the argument probably is that you would have been more fine if there are various structures of loan. When, of course, this is a business school, so let's relate to the things that you've learned over, where we talk of short-term, long-term, and medium-term, and the mix of it. Is that not it? So you are looking at the probability that possibly more necessarily should not be the factor throughout. Is that what you are saying?
Of course, that's the argument. I said, like vehicles.
Yes.
You have several of them.
You gave the example of Tico and a truck. So as long as the nation decides to go for loans, but they are in various, not necessarily all mortgage, it works out.
Of course,
perfect.
It works out. I'm not condemning loans. Neither am I saying mortgage is not good. I'm saying using it in the context of natural resources and in the name of sustainability, that's where the issues come up.
You see, I can also relate to what Anita was saying, but what I have realized, I think Dr. Obi wanted a practical example. The practicality of it is, these things have been done all over in Africa. In fact, I think she missed out Kenya. Kenya has done, I've seen it, I've gone there once, twice or so, I've seen what they are doing. One of them was in their ports. And then again, the key thing was their inability to pay. So we Africans have a problem of being able to repay. And in fact, this is not only with mortgaging, it is really in the financial sector. Some of us who work in the financial sector, you realize that people come for loans, they never show up. That if you see the number, be it insurance, be it banking, so it's a problem. The real issue would be that how best can we move ourselves as a society so that we don't necessarily depend on these loans. Like the business school would always teach all of us those days, what is your equity? And therefore we should then match our equity to our debt. Is that not it? So for me, I think that's the contribution we'll make to this discussion, that for us to make it more useful, and even though it's been dubbed as a debate, it kind of brings out the possible solutions that we need to make it work. So I'm looking at what can we bring together? What is the best way for us to make it work? If you follow some of the history, we've gone through various structures of loans. Those who are a bit, maybe our types, you know about FinSAP 1, FinSAP 2, Structure Adjustment Program, those kind of things, PANS card, and all that. I'm not sure some of the young ones know about that, but that is how. So if you know into this mortgaging, this is a stage where we are. But really the truth is that we can do much better than we have done. And let's bridge the gap by bringing together the various forms that we can make it work so that it becomes more useful.
Thank you.
All right. There's another question. I think I'll take 3 questions or suggestions and then.
Okay, this is a sort of questions, but also sort of probing into Anita. You said something which I was very much interested, that once we do the mortgaging, it gives us the liberty to use the money to do what we want. And that is a fact, because you've put your assets there and say, this is the money I want, now you can do it with whatever. That's the beauty of that mortgaging. But it also poses very big risk. Because we have that liberty, we might never use the money to do what is required for the people. Today, the kind of loans we are taking, mostly they are developmental oriented and they are attached for specific initiatives. So for instance, if you take a loan to do N1, the development partners will be monitoring that, so you'll be forced to do. But the moment we go into this kind of mortgaging and we just take the loan just like that, by the time you realize we'll be using it for tea party. And that's one of the risks we should be mindful of.
Well said, thank you. Any more questions? I'll take one last question. I want us to do a certain cute discussion and then we'll be out of here. Any question? Okay. If there's no question, I want us to look at this. A little over 3 decades ago, the United Arab Emirates was a desert. Complete desert, Prof. I mean, if you see the images, you'll fall sick. But today, in fact, they boast of the most glorious and sophisticated development infrastructure the world over. Now, I was doing a reading and it says that the case of UAE compares very favorably with Africa in terms of resources, in terms of human capital. So the question here is, what can we learn from the UAE and apply to our story so that we can also, you know, we can get there. I mean, no, I mean, sorry, I mean, we can get there. Maybe our great just about 30, 40 years. So indeed we can get there. So how do we get a lesson to learn? Anyone to respond to that? How they have a very, very beautiful, yes.
The truth is, they have a story. I've forgotten the book. There's a story. Their leader has written a book. I have read it. Yeah, and if you read the book, it tells you the story of how they managed to do the things you are talking about. It talks about their public sector, their private. The future. Remember the Dubai Expo that they just did? If you look at some of the infrastructures that they put up, they were putting it up to attract people to come. They do things not necessarily for themselves, but they do it for the generations. In fact, you know that it was a I've read, I even have a copy. It talks about all and in fact they talk about how the leader how because They sell it even around the East Lebanon here. The guy. So you need a leader who to direct the people. So look, let me tell you, your various tiers. Like when Anita the people are there, but the question is, who will be much more principled to say that the Chinese are, or the other people are taking 5% from us? Are we prepared to negotiate and make sure that we do it for the country? It's not any other thing. It's the principles that you've learned, so we can get there.
Thank you. Anita.
I know that there's going to be a whole discussion, but I want to really go there. When we talk about the leadership, I also have this school of thought. The type of governance. The type of governance. It's happened 30 years, and you realize that it's one particular person, right? And then the son, and then the son's son. So you look at China, you look at their structure, okay, it seems possible. Rwanda, he's doing well, but you see, he's gone to another kind of, you see, so the question is, can we eat our cake and have it? I don't know if you understand, but I'm not going to say much.
I mean, it's a very, very important, so she's asking, I mean, in these places, they don't have the kind of democracy we have here. Multi-party democracy is not there, okay? It's more of dictatorship and oligarchy and family hierarchy kind of, and that is how it works. You see here over here, and then after Nobaka says, it's not my right, it's not my right.
Yes, I agree perfectly with the submission of both Anita and my friend here. Those wish lists, we all want it, and sometimes it depends on leader. And if you talk about Rwanda, they were there for many years until the war and Kagame came in. But the question is, that leader is also a human being. How can we be like that leader? And few things I have seen in society, and which I'm always talking about is, in the house, when your child does something wrong, you don't, refuse to spank that child. We do it without even thinking about it, right? At the workplace, people do the wrong thing and we don't want to say. In government, people do the wrong thing, they are our friends and they're in the party and we don't want to say. I don't know where the attitude is coming from. If you are ready to punish your child so that your child becomes the right person, how come that your colleague in government embezzling fund and you cannot punish that person? And that, I think, I don't know whether it's psychology or whether it's in the field of business or whatever, that we should start thinking that the way our instinct teaches us in the home, that we want our kids to be the best. And when they do the wrong thing, we don't shy away from punishing them. When we get to leadership, we should do the same. If I'm in the party and a minister does something wrong, I should not protect that person. And that's Kagame for you. Kagame will treat you as if you are not part of the party the same day, even if it means killing you. And that is the same thing that happens in China. If you mess up, the Communist Party will not forgive you. You have to do the right thing. Unfortunately, our part of the world, we tend to shield our friends. Something we will not necessarily do it to our kids in the house. So please, let's think about that. Even with our democracy, we can still do. Tanzania recently, until the death of Magufuli, he nearly changed the country, but that's a democratic country. At a point, his own party people said that, what you are doing, the party will collapse. He said, I don't care. If you won't vote for me next time, that's fine. But unfortunately, may his soul rest in peace.
Just a few, just one follow-up to in terms of the Rwanda case as a developmental state. The question you ask yourself, if Paul Kagame dies today, would this pattern continue?
Good question.
That's the issue.
Good question.
So sustainability of what he has started after him, that's what we all contemplate.
Well, whether his son will even get there at all in the first place is also another question. Exactly. We need to have... So what it means is that it is not just one person or two people who can cause these changes. All of us need to play our role effectively to make these things happen. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just read this, a summary of an article. You can read the My Vision, like they said, you can read the Dubai story. Now, this is an article, it says that what the United Arab Emirates can teach resource-rich countries in Africa. I'll read just the last paragraph. We're closing on that note. It says that despite these differences and challenges, many of the UAE's policies could be replicated to enhance the continent of Africa's economic growth. It is not just about having wild strategies or creating new infrastructure. It is about effective delivery and implementation and constant innovation from all, as well as efficiency to push the frontiers of success with appropriate checks and balances in place, and most importantly, accountable leadership. And look at how the accountable leadership is in red, to highlight how very important it is. So ladies and gentlemen, on those notes, I want to say thank you all very much. I think our speakers deserve a mighty round of applause. You may please take your seats. Thank you once again, Doc and Anita. At this point, we are wrapping up. We'll allow the Dean, Professor Bawole, to say something. Prof, if you will. Let's welcome the Dean.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm sorry, let me convey my apologies for coming late. The university had an inaugural lecture by one of our colleagues, and these are very important functions that office holders are supposed to be there. So I had to go and show my face and then jump out. I tried to jump out 15 minutes so I can be here at 6 o'clock, and then I met somebody who had been looking for me and I couldn't run. So he ended up taking the rest of my time. So I'm very sorry for coming late. But let me thank the 2001 year group for this. We have been, and I'm happy about the conversation. Now I talk a lot, so I try and summarize. But you know that your year group, when you were in level, no, when you were, so Professor B was my TA. I had come to do diploma 1997 to 1999. Went back to teach as a teacher and came back to do the degree from 2001. So during that period, Professor B was my TA. He taught us research methods and business strategy. So I can relate. I still can see a few faces that I remember from then. But let me congratulate your group for bringing this conversation up. A few weeks ago, a team came to visit and to tell me about this, and I was excited. I'm just sad that we didn't get a lot of our students to participate, because the topic that you chose is such an important topic, and if there's anything to be sustainable about, it is about discussing how this generation can get the next generation to get not only the value that the society has, but also the knowledge that our society has that we are passing on. After all, if we for this, I sat there very quietly and enjoying the conversation. And every bit of the discussion, from the two speakers to the motions, was so true. So when Anita is speaking, I support Anita, and when Doc starts speaking, then I start supporting. And it is the excitement that this conversation creates. And what I want to urge you to do, and our team that is doing the report, is to get this on, and the conversation to continue. I studied for development policy, and so these conversations are things that I have dreamt about eating, sometimes get frustrated and depressed. Because when you move out of this country and you meet Ghanaians who are in Ghana, you will call them average people. So for example, if they were your classmates, you were probably on top and they were in the middle or low. If you meet them there, they are doing wonderful. When I travel, my camera is always taking pictures of good things. And I say, when I come to Ghana, I will fix this. When I come to Ghana, when I land in Kotoka and the air... And when you get to the office on a daily basis, every day the system works you out. And the issue about leadership, it just... I don't know, honestly. So thank you for bringing this conversation up. The note on which we ended is so true. Look at Libya. Until the death of Gaddafi, Libya was almost a superpower and an economic powerhouse under, quote unquote, a dictatorship. And a lot of young Ghanaians were scaling the sea to go to Libya to find fortune. Kagame's story is there. So you just keep asking yourself every day. But this conversation in policy discourse, we call it policy hacking. So we put an issue up and we put all of us in a room like we have done and we debate. And I wished that public policy making in Ghana would be such way where you have people in a cross section of Ghanaians, just put them in a room and put a topic there and let them begin to debate and discuss, and we tease that, and you move the conversation up into the arena where you get people, so-called experts, to begin to distill the conversations and go ahead. But I think ours has become a very toxic environment. Ethnicity, religion, and politics. This cocktail can be so damaging. And unfortunately, our politics have become what is described in the literature as a clientelist, paternalistic, competitive, democratic situation. So by 50,000 votes, one person can become president and the other won't become. And I have asked my students many times, if I came as a presidential candidate and I say I won't give lofty promises, and I say I won't pay money to people, and I say, will you or will you not? So you see why we are where we are. But a poor farmer's son, if I put myself up and I come and I give you money and you take, and we keep doing that, where do you think I get the money from? That takes us through a cycle that is never going to end. But of course, the conversation today has been so illuminating. And on behalf of the management of the business school, your school, I want to say congratulations to, first and foremost, our two debaters, but to the larger group. Thank you so much for leading this conversation.
Thank you.
Let's do it again.
Sure.
And again. Thank you so much.
Thank you too, Prof. Thank you. We have the school administrator, Mr. Emmanuel Poku Sarkodie, also in the house. Let's welcome him to also share his thoughts briefly.
Thank you. Mine is not particularly about what we are organizing here, but I'm passionate about something and I just want to share with you. And I'm sure by the time I finish, you'll also be passionate about it. Yeah. COVID came and most of us said it was a shocker. We were surprised. So much happened to us. And somehow we blame it on the fact that we didn't know it was coming. But I can tell you that some knew that COVID was coming, but we slept over it. Yes, I attended the conference in South Africa 8 years ago, 8 years ago. And at the conference, it was about integrated tertiary software. And so these, the IT people all over the world attended that conference. And the keynote speaker talked about education and the tsunami coming. He said there was a tsunami coming. And after the whole thing, he said that tsunami coming, if we don't embrace technology, and we take things for granted, the tsunami will sweep us all over and we'll be doomed. We came, he gave reasons and he gave options, told us what we should be doing, embracing online teaching and stop face-to-face. So we came and wrote a good report about what we heard, submitted it to management, and what happened? It was put somewhere. 8 years on, here we are, COVID came. My worry is about the needy student, what the needy student went through. Before we started teaching, I'm an administrator, I'm the school administrator anyway, I didn't introduce myself. We decided to conduct a small survey, and the survey was about how the students were going to face the new system, this online thing. And most of them, we realized, didn't even know what we were going to do. So we noted that even ordinary mobile phones, smartphones, some of them were not having. So we came up with an essay contest, and we said, write about your experiences after they've gone through the program. Write about them, and let's see what we can do. We used these experiences to look for sponsorship, and we were able to get some laptops for some of these needy students. Somehow, no, it was not through their own fault. It was because we were negligent. We didn't do what we were supposed to do to support these needy students. So when we did that, it came out that some companies supported us. And lucky enough, the vice president also gave us about 100 laptops, which we are going to collect. We had about 42 laptops, and we presented them to these needy students. Then we realized that many more of the students are going through these problems. So what did we say? We said, okay, some of us have been privileged enough, we've gone through this system, and we have enjoyed out of this teaching. We were able to go through it without such problems. So we said we're going to learn something. We call one alumnus, one laptop. If we can support those who are coming, these needy students, with at least one laptop each, or if we know companies that can support with a number, that would be very good. So I'm here to appeal to you to please, if you have the means, it's not compulsory anyway, if you are touched by our rural folks, if you are touched by those coming from the north, Sunyani, and those places who are unable to even buy a smartphone, you can do something to support. So please, my our unfortunate ones. And we have a committee that's in charge of that. You can be sure, if you want, you can even brand it. I think Data Bank gave us some 5 laptops. They branded them and they put their names on it. We are okay with it. When we collected 42 laptops, those who donated them were made to come and present them. So you see, even the students read their experiences. We've put it in the form of a book. We have bounded it and then put it there. So they came to read their experience, the touching ones. They read it, and even the vice president was so much touched that he also gave us. So please, this is an appeal to you, and I think if you help us, it will be good. Not me, but posterity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that this is very much in order, especially because we are looking at sustainable development. So I'll allow our front, if you have some brief words to share with us.
Okay. Thank you very much. We want to thank everybody, the dean, and the moderator, the speakers, and the students, everybody. Essay, we thank you so much. The only announcement we have is 2001 year group. Please, all those here present, wait, don't go out. We want to have a meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think that it is proper we do this. All 2001 year group members here, can we see you upstanding? Please, let's celebrate them. Let's show. Now, for kind of dialogue goes on in top-notch universities all over the world, and it has a way of having influence in terms of national policy decisions. So please, let's not take it for granted. On behalf of all alumni year groups, we want to say we are very grateful for this initiative. God bless you and give you more ideas. Thank you once again. Dr. Beko, do you want to say something briefly?
Well, just to also say it's great, right? I'm happy, and then as you have inspired us, I think that it's an opportunity for us to dream for the benefit of all. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good. It's good to dream. Yes, sir. Your last words.
I think I've spoken too much today. On behalf of the 2001 year group, I used to be the class prefect at the time. We are happy that we are coming back home. We have very vibrant platform where we do a lot of debates like this. Very controversial people. So we will continue this. I think this is the first of the series. We intend to continue it and make it something which is unique to that year group. On top, I think the appeal that has been made, we will take it up and see what we can do to support the needy students. So administrator will take it up and we will come back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Class Prefect. He's a class prefect for life, right? All right, thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for coming. Be rest assured that this is the beginning of many more to come. Can I see by hand anyone here who didn't learn anything today? Feel free. Be truthful. Anyone here who is very excited that you came because you are sure you are living here with something? All right. Then I want to... Okay, there is this form. Please make sure you complete before you go. Everybody, make sure you complete this form. Now, if we all enjoy this session, then I want to charge us that next time we organize this, make sure you come with one person. So if you're... What it means is that this room will not be enough to contain us. If we are going to double the quantity of, or the number of people who are here today, then we should begin to move by faith. So not the stadium. And that is how national movements and national changes happen. If the government sees that there are intellectual minds meeting in the whole stadium, not to watch football, are there any Nigerians here? So that's national topics to set up. And by the time you realize it has turned into something altogether. Thank you all once again for coming. God bless you. Have a very lovely night. God be with you. Yes, we'll take first with the 2001 year group, and then the dean and the administrator and any other alumni member, executive or worker. So the 2001 year group, please, let's have you.
You tell them that there is something that's out there, so you help yourself.
Okay. Something the stomach, so do a... Yeah, let's... So we'll have the... After this, Okay. Photo, the way they are standing, is it good? I thought you doubled them up a bit. So after this, please just remain where. After this, we'll have Doc and Anita joining them. Taller ones at the back. I see virtually the same height everywhere. Okay, Anita and Doc, please join them quickly. After this, the 2001 year group, you can please exit the stage, and then the dean and the alumni workers and stay with the two debaters. So Doc, Anita, Prof, the school administrator, and everyone. Okay. Which part of the Fan out specifically. Oh, Doc, please join them. After this, please don't go. We'll all come together and attempt to take a group picture. Okay, so let's all. Ifia has joined. Okay, so let's take this one. After this, everyone will come on stage. We'll take a group picture. After the group picture, we will take a final. Students. One year. The third sustainability is very, very together. Please, your class prefect is calling you. Oh, please. For everybody, in fact, including myself. This is how the story begins. This is the first picture. All right, after this, we'll have just the students, the dean, and the school administrator. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. Please remember to pass by the desk and have yourself some refreshment before you go. We have all it's very these types of engagements. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But a lift to Tema